question that must precede that is, well, what's a brand worth? Is it worth all this money? And I say it's not that much money to protect a brand. Why do we protect something? What is the value of a brand? So, I would like to put the question to this audience here and now, that if I was going to sell a brand, and this brand involves the production of a fizzy drink that's dark, got lots of bubbles, and there's a red logo that's associated with it, it's a worldwide brand. How much do you think that brand would be worth in US dollars? Start me off, anybody, anywhere. It's like a real estate auction. Jim, what do you think?
50 billion.
50 billion for Coca-Cola.
500 billion.
They would love it to be that high. They would certainly love it to be that high. Any other bids? It's around 75. Apple is now leading the charts at 98.3 billion. That's the value of the brand. That's not the value of iPod or iPhone or iPhone 6. That's just if you want to buy that logo, that trademark, has been valued by the top valuing company, Interbrand. Their survey of 2013, Apple's at 98.3 billion, Coca-Cola's at 79.2 billion. It used to be at the top of the list, but Apple and Google have knocked it off. So for Coca-Cola, that's 79.2 billion. That's no fizzy drink. That's not even a straw. That's just the brand. That's just the trademark. That's what it's worth. So if we talk about what can a brand be worth, a registered trademark, as we go in today's presentation, these are the sorts of numbers when we start thinking about these sorts of brands. And there are a lot of well-known brands in the marketplace. We see them every day. You walk down any street in the city, you'll be bombarded by brands. But unfortunately, none of these Australian brands even make them in the top 30. Kellogg's may be in the top 50. Gloria Jean's Coffees. Interesting. Who owns Gloria Jean's Coffees? Is that an American brand? What do you think? It was actually purchased by an Australian. They went to the United States, bought the brand, took it back to Australia, and they started an Asian Pacific expansion of that brand. So Gloria Jean is, the last time I looked, an Australian brand. And more well-known brand, Come On. Leighton Hewitt has registered Come On as a registered trademark. That's his brand, and he is capitalising on that brand. And there is a whole, I've written an article years ago about this, the personality brand cult that we see. Greg Norman's got his own brand. We see increasingly these people, high-profile people, football stars, tennis stars, sporting people, they go and register their own brand, and they protect that brand as a registered trademark. We all know Greg Norman was sharp. Well, Richard Branson, grandson or son of Brown. I mean, Richard Branson was the king of brand. And in the early days of Virgin Airlines, Virgin Blue, he really encouraged a brand value proposition that was irreverent, youthful, fun. They've got a bit more serious now because they want to take the competition up to Qantas, and they have got a significant market share as a result. But in the early days, I remember flying on a Virgin Blue airline from Melbourne to Sydney, and the pilot got over and announced, said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Adelaide." Just kidding. So they really did have that sort of fun, irreverent approach in the early days of Virgin Blue. Now they're a lot more serious and a lot more corporate. Business has to be involved, it has to be fun, and it has to exercise your creative instincts. And I think that coming from Richard Branson, there are some pearls of wisdom. Oh, and we see here, going back to the Ten Commandments story, that branding can get into all sorts of commercial activity. There is a registered trademark called Adultery. And what's interesting about the registered trademark Adultery is that it has a rewards program. Adultery is an online adult shop, and so if you shop till you drop, you get rewards. So there's the tagline into the Moses story. Just a quick note about business structure and ownership of IP. It's very important. The first question that any lawyer worth his or her salt will ask when you come to see them is, what's the business structure? Sole trader, partnership, joint venture, company, sole director company. In clarifying ownership of intellectual property, it's very important from the outset that we're clear as who's the entity that's going to own. Recently, I had an inquiry from an organisation in Queensland. They run a pet boarding house, and they have had some issues in relation to breach of copyright. My first question to them was, who owns the copyright? And they said, well, we own it. I said, okay, where'd you get it from? They said, we commissioned a web marketing company to provide us with copy. I said, okay, so where's the deed of assignment? They said, we don't have one. I said, is there a deed of assignment in the terms and conditions? No. So I said, well, you can't go out and threaten somebody else that they're infringing your copyright till you establish a chain of title in your own copyright. It's like a house. I said to my client, what you've done is you've basically bought the car, but the web company's kept the reg papers. So, and then I said, well, who is it going to, is it in your name or is it in the company's name? So the first question that lawyers always have to establish is, who's the client? Is it an individual? Is it a sole trader? Is it a company? Joint venture or partnership? And that has ramifications for ownership, particularly IP. So let's talk about now the first significant element of presentation. Protecting the brand from outside your business. Well, the first thing I do to any of my clients is I recommend that you have an IP audit. Because before you start protecting something, it's very important to establish what's in the larder, what's in the pantry. And I did an IP audit for a company that is a client of mine. They've been trading for 15 years. This is the first time they've done it. And they are an intellectual property company. They provide training programs across a whole range of industry sectors, but they had never done an IP audit. Because intellectual property, for all the accountants in the room, and I hear there's a few here today, is an asset, and it can appear on the balance sheet as an asset. So the first thing is conduct an IP audit. Find out what you've got, and then you've got to work out how do you protect it. Copyright, confidential information, designs, inventions, marketing material. These would be the columns in your IP audit spreadsheet. And you go around and you start prosecuting and identify what IP your entity or business entity has. Because it's valuable and it's worth protecting. But a lot of people don't understand that there are several issues here, and we're going to talk about them in today's presentation about protection. But the starting point is to find out what's there. All right, there's been a lot of talk in the last few years about business names. Who's got a registered business name in this room? Okay. Who thinks that a registered business name gives them any form of protection? Good. Because there was a survey done in 2006 by the Australian Council on Intellectual Property. They surveyed over 800 businesses. 75% of those businesses said having a business name gave them some sort of protection of that name. Well, it doesn't. A business name does not give you any protection. It's just a name that appears on a register. So if your business was XYZ Trading as a registered business name, I could go out and register XYZ open brackets 1 close brackets Trading without a problem. Or if it was John Smith Trading, I could put John W. Smith Trading. A registered business name is just that. It was just a register of business name. In the old days, it was run by the Victorian. Each state had their own register. Now it's been amalgamated, and ASIC is responsible for the management of registered business name. A domain name. Who thinks a domain name gives them any protection in that name? www.wmulholland.com.au. Am I protected? A domain name gives you no protection. It's a license to use that name in cyberspace. It doesn't give you any protection. No protection. No protection of business names or domain names. That's why we saw all this cyber squatting that happened when the internet really kicked off a few years ago. And we're seeing all these sub-level domain names being registered now. You can register now .melbourne as a domain name. So there's a rush